welcome back to Project Zomboid. Today we finally start our trip towards the Louisville extraction point. Unfortunately, we can't get there within a day, so we're gonna have to stop by several cities to set up defenses for the night. Our first stop is Doe Valley, as it's really close to Riverside and maybe we can get some loot. We start off just about where we left off. It's 3 AM and we've just beaten the second Horde Night. I decided this is pretty much the perfect time to get going. Like this, I have about 20 hours to make my way to the next location and to set up some basic defenses. I check my map to try and find the closest area where I could probably set up a good defense. I decide on Doe Valley as it's really close and I know it has some stores that pretty much only have 1 or 2 entrances. Unfortunately for me, SecretZ's checkpoints weren't all good. This small military blockade was quite challenging to get through. Additionally, it also killed all the survivors I was with as they got swarmed by zombies as soon as they stepped out of the car. Despite the time loss, I still managed to get through it. Eventually I did reach our destination. I parked right behind this building as this is where I'm going to be making my holdout spot. Each of these stores only has 2 ways in. You either enter from the front or through the back. This makes it exceptionally easy to defend. Ultimately I settled on this bakery, mainly because this line of counters already serves as some defense and we have a couple of tables on the back. After I set up a basic front line, I decided to check out the other stores around me. After all, in all of my hours of playing Project Zomboid, I think I've been to Doe Valley maybe 3 times. Since the back only had 1 line of furniture, I decided to add a second table there, just so that it would hopefully hold them off for a little longer. After realizing I hadn't been recording for the past 20 minutes, I find myself in this field here with a couple of survivors I found after the Horde Night. If it isn't obvious, in this run, ammunition is extremely important. Now, Doe Valley actually has 2 locations where you can find weapons and ammo. While I knew that Doe Valley had a police station, I didn't actually know where it was. And just by looking at my map, I thought it was this blue building down to the south. So, I actually ended up going to the church by accident. Since in the previous night, the zombies pretty much spent the entire time just attacking the back door, I decided to change up our back-end defenses. Maybe to a better design where the survivors could actually help me out. Believe it or not, the main threat to my sanity isn't actually the daily hundreds of zombies that come charging at me. In fact, it's this weird bug that makes my cursor disappear at random points. I have no idea how to counteract this, and it's extremely annoying. Somehow I managed to survive this buggy mess, and at this point I'm just waiting for the Horde Night to come. As per usual, at 10 PM sharp they started coming in. Now, as I had seen from last night, the zombie pathfinding tends to get pretty weird around here. Unfortunately, what's even weirder is the survivors pathfinding. As you can see, for some reason, none of the zombies are actually coming towards us. Instead, they all seem to prefer to hang out in the room right next door. As hard as I try to take this series seriously, it's genuinely impossible because these bots are just so dumb. As long as the zombies are being this stupid, they're not killing me. So I guess that's better than nothing. Unfortunately, right now, these bots are making it a lot harder than it should be to aim. In fact, these bots are pretty much worse than useless. In fact, the survivors were actively hindering me to the point where I decided to just kill one of them. As for what the zombies are doing here, I have absolutely no clue. I don't even know what's causing this. I'm just assuming somehow they're trying to path over to my survivors and that's bugging them out in some way. Honestly, this was by far the buggiest night I ever experienced in this run. I don't think a single game feature was working as intended on this night. After dealing with that trickle of zombies for absolute ages, I decided I would just go outside and see if anything's left. There were a lot of zombies left. In fact, we pretty much didn't kill any of them and they were all hiding in the building right next door. And so I basically spent the rest of the morning just trying to clear out the zombies that hid in there. I then spent several hours in-game just walking around kiting zombies and shooting at them. Eventually, a couple of NPC survivors showed up and they kind of helped me with the horde. By the time we had pretty much finished killing all the zombies, it was already 6 AM and I had quite a few moodles that I would have to get rid of. Primarily nauseous. For the time being, I knew that I couldn't stay here. This city was just too cursed to hold out in. I wasn't, however, going to leave without my loot. I already decided to ditch the van and the trailer. Even though they're great, they're not going to be very useful as from now on I'm pretty much not going to take survivors with me anywhere. I decided I would use this purple truck. It has quite a large trunk to carry all my weapons and it only has 2 seats. Also, this survivor is supposedly not in my group, but they still act like it and I didn't figure out how to get rid of them until later. After loading the car with more ammunition and guns than I'll ever need, I decided to set off. I quickly checked my map to see where I could go and I saw these 3 large industrial buildings near me. Now, I know that these usually tend to be these food warehouses. These seem like a pretty good option for a holdout spot. After all, usually they have quite a bit of furniture. Whether I was going to be able to fight this horde or run away was going to be entirely dependent on luck. If the wrong things spawned over at these warehouses, then I would probably have no option than to just go away. On my way there, I found this house with some barricaded windows. These almost always mean a survivor home, which in itself means more guns and ammo. That big horde of zombies that we saw up the street decided to follow us. But thankfully, when the superb survivors are actually doing their job, they can be pretty good at killing zombies. Surprisingly though, my companion actually didn't get killed here. They managed to heal themselves. Whether or not that's good is up for debate. I then picked off the last few remaining zombies with just my cleaver. I decided I should enter through the bathroom window. Somehow I forgot to clean the glass shards even though I've been playing this game for about 800 hours. The interior of the house didn't really have anything special. At least it was a survivor home, so that's some extra weapons and ammo for us. After that series of events, I decided to check out the upstairs. There were quite a few zombies hiding behind doors, but that was nothing I couldn't deal with. In terms of actual loot though, there wasn't really anything special. Upstairs there was just a little bit more ammo. This was going to be where I would try and hold out for this night. It may not look amazing, but it'll work. I decided to check out this little shed here. Inside wasn't really any special loot, but there were some tables. And these are pretty useful for our defenses. I decided I would use these two tables to block off this entrance area here. But as per usual, I decided to take a power nap just before the Horde Night started, just to avoid getting drowsy while I'm fighting. Just like every night before, 10 PM sharp, they started showing up. As the night progressed, the kind of unexpected problems started to arise. It actually became extremely dark in this room. Zombies started to pretty much come in from all sides. And before I even knew it, I realized that this was actually a horrible idea, and I could die here very easily. Eventually, I decided to switch out to a shotgun in the hopes that it would at least do a little bit more damage to the hordes mounting on these tables here. But it was around this point that I realized this wall just wasn't going to hold up for much longer. At this point, I realized I was going to have to run. I made a very risky escape onto the street. Initially, I tried to fight off some of the zombies that were hanging out near my car, but I soon realized there were going to be too many. My only option was to try and kite them away from my car so that I could drive away. Looking at the footage here, it might not even seem like it was that dark. But if I just turn off the brightness and contrast, this is how it looked for me. Eventually, my car was clear enough for me to just get in and try driving away as fast as possible. I quickly checked my map to see where I was going. I was basically going down some weird, unmarked road in the middle of nowhere. My plan now was to try and get to McCoy logging. It's not a city, but hopefully it'll work as a holdout spot. After all, industrial buildings in general tend to have metal shelves and metal drums and other things I can use as defenses. Checking on my map, Muldrow was actually the closest city, and while I could go there and check out the police station for some loot, I decided not to, as McCoy logging is literally right next to it, and in my opinion it's probably a better spot to hold out. I then found this little military outpost here. It didn't really have anything special, but it had these lamps. I like using these in case there's no light switches at some place I'm using as a holdout spot. Unfortunately, all the boxes seemed to be empty, so there weren't going to be any more guns here. There seemed to be a bit of a resistance here, but I made short work of them with my armaments. After spending a little bit longer than I'd like to admit fighting the hordes outside, I moved into this building here. Now that those were dealt with, I decided to move into the little area I had decided to make my designated holdout spot. Now, since I've actually capped the Horde Night to be at around 200 zombies, I'm hoping this defense will be enough to hold off the next Horde Night, even without any survivors to help me out.